is currently Tuesday at about 6 o'clock. And I am doing my little clip of what I'm reading and where I'm at. I last week finished the first book you guys chose, Talk by James Patterson. This was a book I really wanted to read, so I'm glad it was chosen. It was a spin-off from one of my favorite series, Maximum Ride. I finished that Thursday. And then over the weekend, I finished the second book you guys chose. So we had A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. It was really good. I didn't know I was going to like it as much as I did. I know Miss Nowlands read these and really liked them, so I thought I would give it a chance, and I actually really liked it. I had a lot of sticky notes. And I'm currently on my third book, and that is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I've gotten to about page 81, and that's out of 308 pages. So I've started filling out my little week 2 booklet. Gotten several quotes written in there already. Started to answer the focus question number 1 at least. The really cool thing about this book is it is written in play form. So this is actually a play. This is written as the script to the play. So it has stage directions, it has who says what, and they're like dialogue, talking to each other. It's not chapters, it's Act 1, scene. I'm on 19 right now. I'm about 3 pages from Act 2. And I'm very excited. Hi. This is Goose. She's not like Miss Nowlands' cat. She's a little crazy. This play actually starts in the very last scene of the 8th book, or the 8th movie, or I guess 7th book, 8th movie. So that was really cool because it starts off with like the very last quote from both the book and movie. And it's really cool because you get to see all of the old characters' kids going to Hogwarts and interacting with each other. Alright, so page 17, my quote is from Scorpius Malfoy. The rumor is that my parents couldn't have children, that my father and my grandfather were so desperate for a powerful heir to prevent the end of the Malfoy line that they used a time turner to send my mother back. Albus Potter, to send her back where? Rose Granger. The rumor is that he's Voldemort's son. And I had my little sticky that said, what? That's shocking. And so far they haven't confirmed if that's true or not. It's just a rumor right now. But I will say Scorpius Malfoy does not act like Draco Malfoy. He's very shy and happy, and I think he just wants friends. But because of this rumor, no one wants to be his friend, except for Albus Potter. But that's what I have right now. I've answered my first question here. Started on my second one, but my first question I've answered because it's kind of about Albus Potter. He's friends with Scorpius Malfoy. He's been sorted into Slytherin. He's bad at Quidditch. He's the exact opposite of his dad. He has seen himself as a failure because he's not like his dad, and everyone expects him to be like his dad. Him and his dad, Harry, butt heads a lot and get in a lot of arguments. So that's not going well. We'll see if that gets better, but that is what I have right now.
Good morning. It is Wednesday and I'm back in my little corner over here. It's actually been a couple days since I've updated you at all on my reading. There hasn't really been a whole lot to update you on because I haven't read a whole lot since I last updated you. So let me just figure out my pages here. All right, well, I read a whopping 6 pages on Monday, and that's it. That's the most that I've read recently. But I still feel good about where I'm at because I am still on track technically for where I'm supposed to be for this week. So, you know, getting a lot of reading done over the weekend kind of ahead of time has kept me on track for this week. I'm currently on page 346, right in the middle of a chapter. I thought I might have finished this for this week and would have been moving on to a different book, but that doesn't seem to have happened for me this week, and that's totally okay. I know there are some of you who are already done with your first book and have moved on to a second book. I know some of you who are already done with the second book and are moving on to a third book, and that's awesome. That's amazing. For some of you, you may just be trying to get through your one book in the 3 weeks, and that is totally fine because it's looking like that's what I'm going to be doing also. So I am right there with you guys. I did want to go ahead and talk about our second focus for this week, which is once again plot and structure, but we have a little different question to pay attention to this week. So our focus question asks, what are 2 or 3 of the major turning points in the story? How are they important? So when you're thinking about turning points in your book, you're thinking about those sort of major moments that are helping to either push the story forward in some way or maybe even take the story in what feels like a completely different direction. But think about like what moments or events or conflicts or actions are having an impact on how the story unfolds. It's kind of hard to give specific examples of like major turning points in my story without totally spoiling a lot of the major things that happen. So I will try to maybe give some examples in very vague terms. Okay, so possible turning points. It could be the unexpected death of an important character. It could be the way in which one character takes action to manipulate another character. Maybe some vital piece of a mystery is revealed. Maybe you learn something about a character's background or about a character's connection with another character that you realize is incredibly important to the story. It could be some realization or like epiphany that your character has. Maybe there's some sort of bad guy who sort of swoops in and changes the course of the story. Maybe there's some sort of good guy who swoops in and changes the course of the story. Maybe there's just some sort of weird science fiction thing happening that is probably going to have some lasting impact on what happens. Maybe one character betrays another character, and there's some sort of conflict happening between 2 pretty important characters. Honestly, I think there's a lot that could happen in a story that could be defined as a major turning point. So as you're thinking back on the things that you've read leading up to this point, or as you're continuing to sort of wrap up your reading for this week, think about what are the most important moments, what are the major moments that you feel have really impacted the outcome of your story.
Should I be looking at you or at the camera?
Either way,
I keep
because
going
when
back
it's
and
like
forth.
you can talk to directly to them, or like in an actual like documentary style, like they're usually looking at the interviewer
Right,
anyway. So I
okay,
think either
that's
way
what
would
I'm
be
gonna do
fine.
then.
And like they're gonna hear me talking to you, so like they know that I'm here.
Where does that voice come
So you finish your book?
Yes, I finished my book. I really liked it.
I have
That's
a
it.
question. I have a question. I need to
What?
know, and I think students will want to know too.
What?
Did you figure it out before?
Kind of. So, okay, like I mentioned before, the book is told from different people's perspectives. So you have the perspective of the bridesmaid, who's the sister of the bride. You have the perspective of the bride, the best man, and the wedding planner. I think that's it. Yeah. So each one of them, I mean, you can kind of figure out how they're a part of the overall story, but none of them seem to really come together until the very end, and you're like, holy crap, like, it all makes sense now. So each person has their own storyline, so I figured out part of one person's storyline pretty early on. I was like, okay, this is totally going to happen with this other character, but I did not see the other two storylines coming into play at all until the very end.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I did predict some of it, but I was surprised by some of it as well. It was very interesting.
If you could give it a rating out of 5 stars.
I feel like I'm a little generous with my stars. I just want to give them all 5 stars. I'm like, yep, this was great, that was great. Probably a 4.5 because it does start off a little slow after the first chapter. You're like, okay, get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall the book was good. I'm actually loaning it to a student in my ELA class now. Yeah, he was like, I want to read it. And I was like, you can have my copy. He's reading it now. That's why I don't have my copy. But
Gotcha. Do you have another book that you're reading right now?
yeah, let me get it.
Ooh.
So, this is my new book, Then She Was Gone. Let me just read you guys the summary. No one ever just disappears. Ellie Mack was the perfect daughter, and then she was gone. 10 years after Ellie's disappearance, her mother, Laurel, is trying to put her life back together when she meets an unexpectedly charming man in a cafe. Before she knows it, she's meeting Floyd's daughters, and his youngest, Poppy, takes Laurel's breath away because she is very similar to her daughter Illy. I mean, almost a splitting image of her. And now, the unanswered questions she's tried so hard to put to rest begin to haunt her. Where did Ellie go? Did she run away from home, as the police have long suspected, or did something more sinister happen? I'm a sucker for a good mystery. I'm on page 56, 57.
How is it comparing to the first one you read?
I don't know if I like this author as well as I like the author of the other book that I read.
Like the writing style?
But I do like it so far. So it keeps switching back and forth between the past and the present. So one chapter is from the perspective of the daughter before she disappears. And then in the next chapter, it flashes forward to after she's disappeared, and it's from the mother's perspective, dealing with like the aftermath.
Like, do you like how it kind of jumps around on like different timelines?
Yeah, it
like
keeps
that
me on my
structure?
toes. And then sometimes I get really into the daughter's timeline. I'm just like, yes, keep going. And then it switches to the mom's, and I'm like, can I just skip this chapter?
Star prediction.
I predict that this one will be a 4 out of 5. But depending on how unpredictable it turns out to be, it could bump up to a 5. If it really surprises me, I would maybe give it a 5.
Which means it would rank higher than the
Higher
other book.
than the other one. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think this one will end up being more predictable than the other book that I read. We shall see. I'm also not keeping a reading log, so... Am I getting enough for this?
All right, I think we're done.
Yep.
I'm actually out at my parents' house, and these are my parents' cats, and so we're just hanging out. I've got my Starbucks. I also just realized that you might be able to hear my parents' neighbors over here. I don't know if that's gonna be awkward or distracting, so maybe I'll just read for a little bit instead and then see if they go inside. to say hi again. Oh my goodness. Okay, so things have actually quieted down a little bit, which is good, and I actually was able to read more of my book. I made it to page 360, so I've got this little bit left to read. So I went ahead and added my pages to my log, and I'm going to go ahead and count this as like the end of my week 2, even though I know you guys are going to be seeing this on Thursday, but I'm kind of wrapping things up for us this week. So I read a total of 184 pages for week 2, which definitely meets my weekly goal, so that's awesome. I went ahead and filled out my note section. I answered the different focus questions, and I don't want to like get too close and like spoil things because I've got some spoilers on here, but notice how like up here I have multiple quotes with multiple notes in a box, which is why I think mine looked so full last week, was because I had multiple things that I was keeping track of. But then down here you'll notice I only have one. So if yours looks more like this down here, that's fine. That's exactly what it should look like. I think that a lot of us on this part at least have had some confusion about what exactly we were supposed to be including for that section of the log, and really I think that's the easiest part because there's not really any way to get it wrong. You're just listing parts of the text and your own thoughts about it, right? So you could really put whatever kind of thought you have, and you know, you're gonna get credit for just keeping track of your own thinking. Oh my gosh, I thought the neighbors were coming back out. For my weekly reflection, I went ahead and noted that as far as my reading habits go this week, I knew that I was going to be busier this week, and so that's why I made an effort to read quite a bit ahead over the weekend. So I went ahead and wrote that down as a habit that worked well for me this week, and yes, I did meet my weekly reading goal. As far as my current reactions to this book, there is a lot that is happening, and so there's a lot more action, there's a lot more suspense, there's like some scandal. Things in this story just continue to get interesting, so I'm very happy about that. I went ahead and gave it another 4 stars for this week. It's not quite like 5-star material for me, but I still am really loving it, so for me that's like solid 4 stars. Alright, well I think that is it for now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Happy reading, and I will talk to you guys later.